Welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast, where we sit down and have real conversations with business leaders that have been where you are. During these interviews, we'll dive into what it takes to improve systems and champion processes that maximize performance. Each week, our trailblazing guests share their experiences and understanding of the workforce to help inspire change, challenge our thinking, and share what it takes to successfully travel the road to profitability. Now here's our host, co-founder and chief evangelist of About Time and WorkMax, Mike Merrill.
Hello and welcome back to the Mobile Workforce Podcast. I am your host, Mike Merrill, and today we are sitting down and excited to have our guest on, Mr. Steve Handley. Steve is the Construction and Real Estate Division Vice President at Aktion and Associates, Inc., and he's also a veteran in construction with over 20 years in the industry. So today, Steve and I are going to talk about the progress that construction has made and how today's economy is changing, how construction is being done now and into the future. So thanks again for joining us on the podcast today, Steve. Looking forward to the conversation today.
No, you're welcome. It's my pleasure to join.
Well, you're always a fun guy to hang out with and to chat with. We've had a long-term relationship that we've worked together in the industry. So fun to finally have you on the podcast.
Good deal. Yeah, I'm excited too. I haven't done many of these things, so it's a new adventure.
Well, we are all about new adventures here. So, all right. So let's just talk in the beginning. So, just to set your perspective straight on this, what is the journey that construction's on today in regards to technology and just generally improvements within the industry?
Yeah, I'm going to correct you a little bit. I've actually been in construction almost 40 years.
Wow.
20 of it's just been with Aktion and Associates. I grew up in this industry. As a teenager, I'm working construction for my stepdad. But so I've seen a lot over the years. And what's interesting, I think, is I've seen it go from a totally manual system to the start of PCs. And now we're rolling into the mobile and cloud platforms that exist today. And I think it's just really interesting to see how that's progressed and how construction companies have absolutely been able to be more efficient using technology. And I think technology is just a real huge benefit for construction companies. And some of them are kind of reluctant to embrace it, but I think there's so much value that can be added for folks. And I think the wave's going to continue. You think about, was it less than 10 years ago the iPad came out? I mean, that's how fast technology has been growing. And what I think is probably the biggest thing that's on the horizon that is going to be a stretch for some of our construction companies, but I think it's coming. And there's some rumblings in the market or in the industry about it now, is standardization, more standardization in the transaction and interfaces between applications like WorkMax and how they talk to all the ERP systems that you interface with, because right now they're all different, right?
Yeah, you're right. Even, the SIC codes and things like that there's some different versions of all kinds of things within the industry.
Absolutely. And what I'm starting to see, just again, where it's the infancy stage, is not just the documents being standardized, but the actual interface and the format of the transaction that's going back and forth between applications that are talking with ERP. Similar to what's been going on in the auto industry for quite some time is the DDI. That's all electronic back and forth in the auto industry. I see that starting to bubble up in the construction industry. And you think about how much easier would it be for you to not have multiple different interfaces. You got one to deal with, and you've got one standard. I kind of see that coming. Now that might be a few years away, but I'm starting to hear people talk about that. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's a very interesting observation. And I guess just to set the stage just a little bit better, maybe you could talk about Aktion Associates, what role you serve in the industry, and why you would have a front row seat on perspectives like this on what's going on.
Oh, sure. Well, here at Aktion Associates, we're a software reseller. Sage is one of our primary software products, but we have other divisions We have a manufacturing and distribution divisions. We have a division that works in the auto industry, for example. So we kind of understand that I learned that from my peers. But we work with, we've got, about over 4,000 customers in the construction space that we work with regularly. So we get a lot of exposure to a lot of different situations and how different companies do different things, because everybody has their own secret sauce. So we do that. That's kind of what we've been doing, and that's what we've been doing since day one. Aktion's been here over 30 years.
Wow, yeah, major player in the industry, and I one thing that we've always loved, in working with your team is you do have a lot of unique perspectives. You're working more broadly. You're not just focused on one thing or another. It seems like you really do a great job of allowing companies to be served by whatever's best for their situation, as opposed to trying to shoehorn everything into one thing or another that you're focused on specifically, right?
Right. Absolutely. We're always looking to figure out what's the right solution for this customer, because there's just enough uniquenesses about it that we want to find the right solution for the customer.
So what, and we almost get a little tired talking about the pandemic and all these types of things, but from your perspective, what are some things that you've learned that helped us to become better, or at least to advance into this technology that we had to depend on because of that situation?
Well, that was one of the most interesting phases, I thought, of our business cycle, if you want to call it that. We have a technology division. We have data centers. We provide network engineering support. We also, we sell hardware too. So that division, interestingly enough, skyrocketed for the first several months during the pandemic, because a lot of our customers said, we need help. We're not set up for remote access. So those guys were scrambling and trying to get equipment, which was challenging during those days as well. One of our biggest contractors up in the Detroit area, he's $300 million mechanical. We were already hosting them. So it was an easy transition for them. We just need to get, laptops and get the home office equipment set up for his employees. And now that the pandemic's over, he goes, I don't think we need to change. And that's what I think is really interesting, because there's a lot of folks that are decided this is going to be the standard now. The work from home or limited access or limited time going to an office seems to be more the standard than what it was just a few short years ago.
Well, yeah, and in construction, it is a little unique because we're all used to working on remote projects. So, it's not always efficient to go all the way back to the office to deliver paperwork or to go have meetings. I mean, it was already, a pain in the rear as it was. This has just opened up doors and avenues that people just weren't aware of before in our industry, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And like, you're right, a lot of the field folks were already doing some things in a remote, but now we're talking about some of the back office folks who are used to, like, I've got my computer and I've got everything I need right in front of me. And now how do you do that from a remote or home office location?
Yeah, which in a positive way, and this is why we pivoted as a company to a cloud-based product. Now we do need cloud access. We're not going to have networks and VPNs and the same access to a server that's in a back office somewhere. We really do need that web browser access. Is that right? And what have you seen as far as the adoption?
Well, absolutely. And I think to me, that's the next generation of most of the construction products are not cloud ready. There's a couple out there, Sages being one of them. And we're getting a lot of traction with those folks that now, they want it. They see the value of, I don't have to have a server that somebody cares, and I don't have to pay for somebody to care and feed it, or I don't have to pay for somebody to host it where I remote desktop in. That's even getting to be aged technology and nowadays. So just a straight up browser access that can run on any device And so to say Gen taxes, which, our next generation tool, you can be on a Mac, you can be on a tablet, you can be on a laptop. It doesn't matter. It's all browser agnostic.
Yeah, that's great. Well, again, for ease of use and still superior functionality, but from anywhere, boy, you're really talking a lot better tool set than what we're used to 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
So as we look back, and it's easy to say, oh, I knew this was going to be this way, or I figured it was going to be that way. But if we compare maybe the pandemic that we came through and some of the predictions, where they came out and where they landed, if you lay that side by side with the economy and what people are out there saying right now, as far as can't get a workforce, we're struggling getting young people into the industry. Do you have any insights or hunches or predictions that you could share on where you think things are headed in the future?
Well, we have struggled with skilled trades for a decade. I mean, that has been a challenge for contractors for quite a while. Pandemic didn't help that, quite frankly. Too many people got paid to stay at home, quite frankly, and it didn't work.
Kind of spoiled things, didn't it?
It did, and so we try to get people back into that mode. But interesting, I kind of you start to see a little bit of a different mindset with some of the younger generations that are looking at options now versus college. Do they go to a trade school? Do they learn a trade? And some of them are, quite frankly, just doing the math. Wow, I can spend and go in debt $100,000 and have a 4-year degree, or I can go to a trade school, get paid while I'm going through it, and pretty much come out with little to no debt and be making, and within a few years, having a similar income that they might have after a 4-year college degree. So they're starting to do the math and see the economics of that's an option that's not too bad to look at.
Yeah, it's interesting because you talked earlier about some of the things in construction that we're seeing, the innovations we got on the cloud technology. I know some of the next generation tools like 3D printing and drone technology and BAM. What are some other things that you're seeing or in your mind that you think might be coming down the road that are advancing from even what we're seeing now?
Oh, I think the things that, in spite of it being kind of a negative thing on the news right now, AI. I think AI is huge, and we're already seeing that. I mean, we actually had that in some of our legacy software. We just didn't call it that. But the fact that now we have the capability to use AI in a positive way to say, hey, it's learning what's going on. It's analyzing your data real time. It can analyze trends and then easily spot something that's outside the trend and send an alert and notify, like, wait a minute, this transaction is way out of bounds from what normally we see for this type of a transaction. That kind of stuff, I think, is incredibly powerful and can help efficiencies for contractors because, instead of having to write a report, somebody's got to read it, and they're getting proactive information, even simple things, the compliance, some compliance alerts, things like that, or just the fact that it's tracking and it's doing a lot of the stuff with the data mining is what we used to call it back in the older days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we must both be getting older because I remember that. So with that, are there some other predictors that you think contractors should be paying attention to be ready for the future before it comes and take advantage of things quicker as opposed to waiting?
In the technology side, I think it's just constantly, it changes so fast. It's just, being aware and making a special effort to understand what's out there and what's coming. And that information's available. Predicting and trying to anticipate workloads and backlogs. That's a little different conversation. I think that's something that's very interesting right now too, is looking at some of the past trends. And again, you can use a lot of your historical data that you've collected to do some analytics to see, where things are trending as far as types of work and things like that as well.
Yeah. Do you think it's valid that there are so many people that are tapping on the AI conversation right now?
I think it's interesting to listen to what's going on, because I think it's important to understand how AI can be used in regular workplace applications. I separate it from what we hear on the news as far as the social media side of that, as far as how it's trying to direct people to do different things or feed you with thoughts. I kind of just set that aside and see how we can use that technology more, specific for the needs of a contractor.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point that in an application like construction, if you can have predictive analytics actually driving things that are being put in front of you, or helping automate and make a process more efficient, quicker, in a lot of cases safer. I mean, I don't see the downside to any of those things if we can keep it within the rails of, a certain parameters that just make common sense. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think that's spot on. I think that's exactly where it is. And to look at that and be somewhat tepid about it, so you realize that there's extremes. Stay away from the extremes. Use it how you need it to be used. And I think there's a lot of power in using AI for those type of things.
Well, and I think, like what our company does and what your company does, we're in software, we're in technology, we're in automation, we're in the industry of helping companies be more efficient, be better. I think these things have to play a role down the road, and it's going to come whether we want it to or not. So I think the better thing, just like you said, is figuring out what does that look like in the best way possible, and how quickly can we start leveraging it.
Absolutely. And that's where a lot of contractors can use folks like you and our company to help stay on top of this. We live it. We live it every day. I get to come home and do technology support for my wife. She's like, I broke this. But so we can fill that gap and help feed our customers, what trending technology as well. I mean, I feel that's some of our responsibility to our customers, to help keep them abreast of where the technology is heading and how it can help them out and how to deploy it.
Well, and interestingly enough, with things going on in the economy right now with inflation and rising interest rates, rising construction costs, we're just coming off of all of these issues with the supply chain. We just have to get to a more efficient place as quickly as we can, because if we don't, these costs are not going to come down. They're only going to get worse. And I think it's just going to exacerbate those challenges that we're already working with and kind of trying to push the rock up the hill, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've both been doing this long enough. You've been hearing the phrase "do more with less" forever. And to me, the only answer to that is using the technology, leveraging our technology to do more with less, and let the technology kind of fill things that we used to do manually. But that's certainly a way of doing more with less.
Yeah. Are you seeing in your customer base, are you seeing things slow down a bit on the residential side, or commercial or industrial, or some booming and some busting? I mean, what does that all look like for you?
A lot of our customers are reporting strong backlog, particularly those in the infrastructure space. Again, they're taking advantage of some of this infrastructure bills that even some of those started even in prior administrations, as far as but it just takes a while for that stuff to get filtered down, and that's one of the concerns some of them have, is like, we've got we've got these contracts for infrastructure or what have you, but they may not start for 9 months, a year by the time they get everything started. Then guess what? Our inflation, price changes, they've got to deal with that. So they're a little bit worried about that, but I still see there's a lot going on. Residential market's been strong. It's kind of taken a little bit of a slowdown, but I still think there's still a strong market there as well. So a lot of our customers are being very positive and think that we still have a pretty good outlook.
Yeah, I think, and we're hearing a lot of the same. I do feel like people are maybe acting a little timid on, maybe letting go of those nickels as easily as they have been. And it may just be, post-pandemic, like, this can't last forever. Maybe I better be a little more cautious. Are you seeing a little bit of that yet? Or what do you feel there?
Yeah, we do. We still see folks being very cautious about their spend. And sometimes it's a little bit of a long conversation or a sales cycle to understand the value of spending the money in the technology space, particularly when in the cloud where you're doing subscription, where they're used to, hey, I bought this and I pay a maintenance contract, but understanding how to get those apples and oranges aligned, if you will, where you don't have to pay for a server, you don't have to have an IT person. It's all in the cloud. That's all taken care of for you. So that's just all part of that subscription cost. So we do have to go through kind of that conversation and understanding that, the cost of subscription at first glance might seem a little bit higher or a lot higher. But when you start factoring in all the other elements that you are currently paying with, like a legacy software, it starts to level out pretty quick.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. I think the dollars eventually they probably even out pretty well, but at the end of the day, the access, the convenience, the efficiency at which you can operate from a cloud solution. I mean, I got to be just dead honest, and it's not because it's the business that I'm in. It's because 10 out of 10 times, I would only ever and always choose a cloud solution now. I have no interest in going back.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Intact, Intact's been around a while. The construction vertical been out a couple of years, and it's starting to get some stride. We're really having a lot of success with a lot of our customers understanding that concept. Like, wow, this can really have some huge value to our organization just because it's convenient. Access is immediate. 99.9% uptime. It's like it's always there.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, and when it's not up, the regular internet to the server probably wouldn't have been up anyways, right?
That's right.
You got bigger problems going on, and I can't run my whip report.
Exactly.
Well, this has been awesome. What are there any other things that you really wanted to drive home, or points that you wanted to make today that listeners can remember from this conversation?
Yeah, I think probably the main thing is that just understand that technology is our friend, if you will, and to it's something that can be a huge impact on your organization and your efficiencies, and truly be a huge cost saver, and marrying products like Sage Intacct as a core back office ERP with other products like WorkMax for your time and attendance and expense collection, Procore for the project management side. All these cloud products are talk to each other, and that whole integration and their ability to continue to talk is going to do nothing but get better as time goes on. It'll get stronger. It might be tepid now, but it's going to get hot later.
I love it. That's fantastic. Well, it's been a lot of fun. You just spurred my memory. We played a little word game here today. And at the beginning, you picked a word for me, and I picked a word for you. How did I do it using the word you chose? And then I can follow up with my thoughts.
Well, I think I heard it a couple of times, but I wasn't doing an exact count. But I think you did tack on the next generation terminology, which is what we have tagged all the cloud technology as next generation. That's the reason that was the word game.
Very fitting. Well, and I chose the word tepid for you, and you used it twice, and I actually threw it in there once just as a reminder for you.
Yes, you did. I need reminders.
I get it. Well, thanks again for coming on today, Steve. That's been a lot of fun. We encourage our listeners, if you're needing technology help and guidance, check out Aktion and Associates for your hosting needs, your technology solutions, especially if you're in the construction industry.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll catch up with you down the road and look forward to talking again when we have the opportunity.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mobile Workforce Podcast, sponsored by About Time Technologies and WorkMax. If you liked the conversation we had today or were able to learn anything new or helpful, please make sure to follow us on our WorkMax page on LinkedIn and on Instagram at WorkMax_. And subscribe to the show on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform so you will never miss another insightful episode. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review and share the show with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and will allow us to continue providing impactful information with others looking to improve their results in their business and, in turn, their life.